you're doing great. Of course, you're going to enjoy that too. Today, we have a very important topic that we're going to work on, we're going to discuss, and a wonderful and amazing guest as well. Somebody who's a guru of leadership, somebody who's an author of like more than 5 books on the same topic leadership, critical thinking, and of course, we understand that COVID has changed us. What has it changed? We don't really know, but it has changed us to a maximum extent. That is what we know. So we're just going to talk about the modern workplaces, how leadership works, and how exactly critical thinking has now become one of the most important and sought after, of course, right after emotional intelligence. So, talking about our guest today, we will have Dr. Alex Jones with us, who's basically a UAE's Golden Visa Award winner. He's a PhD in leadership, and he's a John C. Maxwell coach as well. And on top of that, he's an author, and he does have authorized to award American Leadership Certification too. So, Dr. Jones, welcome on board TMCC. Hope you're doing great.
Good morning to you guys. It's already morning here in Dubai. It's bright, sunny, to be honest with you. And good afternoon to you, and good afternoon or good morning to all of you around the world who are joining us. And I really thank you, Hannah and Sana, for hosting this event. It's such a wonderful, great initiative. And I'm really in support of such kind of things because you're tapping on the most important aspects of life: leadership, critical thinking, team leadership, and emotional intelligence. What's better than that? Can it get? Let's get going.
Yeah, of course. It really works well. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Jones. Again, I'll welcome you on behalf of our team in UC fraternity and our top management as well. So, Dr. Jones, what is it about leadership and Dr. Alex Jones? I mean, how did the journey begin? Why exactly leadership, and why do you think that you just felt like that it's so suitable for you to take it as a career, and how exactly you became a leadership consultant? So, would you just walk us through this?
Absolutely. It would be my wonderful pleasure actually just to walk you through this journey. I just would like to start with the word passion. Passion, that's what gets me into leadership. Passion is what drives me every single day. It's not about the workplace, it's not about the day to day activities. You got to have some passion to do whatever you like in life. As a matter of fact, actually, you got to ask yourself today, and I want to ask everybody today, just kind of like a brainstorming, ask yourself all the time, what is that gets you passionate about? What gets you passionate about getting out of bed and waking up every single day? So I would say passion gets me into leadership, and the journey did not start overnight. As a matter of fact, and since we have a lot of students actually listening today, a lot of faculty maybe can relate, a lot of staff, we all been there. We've been studying. I'm still learning. I don't know it all. And if somebody tells you that I know it all, you know they stopped learning in their life. As a matter of fact, the journey had started with a subject that I've taken on my master degree. And those subjects, actually, I started realizing that I'm really doing good in these social science subjects. Organizational behavior started with that journey, moving to negotiation skill, moving to strategic management, moving to leadership topic, and then that sat really well with me. I realized I'm not really good in topics like finance or accounting. Or it really nothing really. I'm not. With all respect to all the finance professors and accounting professors around the world or accounting professionals. As a matter of fact, that what got me. And the bottom line is that there was one subject that can take you into a series of subjects like a chain, right? And here is the emotional intelligence professor one day she mixed emotional intelligence with leadership, and that really sat well with me. I had no idea about what emotional intelligence is all about. Imagine, I thought, wait a second, emotion, and you got intelligence? What are we talking about? Are we talking about something different in the political arena? And as a matter of fact, it turned out no. I started digging deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until I ended my journey actually to finalize it with a PhD in leadership from a California School of Professional Psychology, California School of Organizational Psychology at Alliance School of Management and Leadership. I was very lucky and fortunate with people like that. The journey has not stopped over there, but rather just to continue to become a certified coach of John C. Maxwell and a trainer, educator, as well as a speaker, right? I am really passionate about leadership, and that's what gets me in there.
Well, that's great. That was wonderful answer. And seriously, the way you actually put it for anyone who really wants to make a career in this domain, I think I've already got started getting a lot more passionate. I'm already am, but tell you what, I'm pretty sure that the next 30, 35 minutes are going to be very exciting for all of us. So, Dr. Jones, building on your, insight that you've already shared with us, I'll be just coming up with the first question that I believe that everybody wants an answer to. How do you compare leadership in the age of automation? And why exactly is it that critical thinking is a must for this age? So how would you comment on this? Why it is so important that everybody, if we compare ourselves now that we had steam engines almost 100 years ago, a century ago, and now we have actually progressed a lot. There are machines that can think, artificial intelligence and all that. So why it is so important for a human being, a leader, that they have to keep their followers along, and has this leadership thing evolved itself? What is your take on it, Dr. Jones? We'd really like to know about it.
Absolutely. Everything, this is my philosophy, everything in life, rise and fall on leadership. A lot of people are scared of artificial intelligence, for example. All right, we're jumping into the automation era, and this is what happens. A lot of people are scared. A lot of jobs will be just gone. As a matter of fact, do not be scared, right? Why? A lot of people realize like machines can really be us. And as a matter of fact, we're creating those machines. My philosophy about this all the time, you have a wonderful brain and you have a wonderful heart and you have your wonderful you. As a matter of fact, nobody can take that away from you. No machine in the world can replicate who you are. No matter how much they try, they still need us as a human beings. We're still on this universe and you get to utilize your full potential to the best. Leadership, I would categorize it as a beauty. You see a beautiful flower in there, you see a beautiful tree in there, you see a beautiful building, beautiful car, whatever actually, drives your passion towards the beauty. That's what leadership. Leadership is like a beauty. You see it, you identify it, and you recognize it. And guess what? A lot of people nowadays, when I tell them leadership is like a beauty, they're like, what? What are you talking about? Leadership, what? That doesn't resonate. No, it is actually a science. It's an art. And leadership is an art because you're crafting your daily life every single day on leadership, right? One question has emerged to me one day is I don't get it. I don't see leadership everywhere. And it's just leadership. And my philosophy about this, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Why? We get up every single day. We take the leadership, arranging our bed. We take the leadership, brushing our teeth. We take the leadership to get dressed. We take the leadership to raise our kids. Our kids can be actually the leaders and they can boss us more and more and more, and believe it or not, right? So the reality of the fact, everything rise and fall on leadership. Whether the artificial intelligence people like it or not, leadership is going to be still there, and nobody ever is going to be reaching to the level of a human being. So there's no machine in the world. Yes, the science says we can do this, we can feel, we can make the machines feel and replicate human beings. But honestly, we created those machines. Remember about the era when everybody was scared about the Macintosh and the computers, and everybody says, well, the computers are going to replace the human beings. After a while, guess what happens? We created those, we programmed those, and we're still there. And we've seen the transformation that has happened. So my philosophy about this, we're going to be still there, and everybody's going to need us, and we still need leaders. We're going to create leaders. We're going to make leaders, and that's what's going to happen.
That's perfect. That's really good to know. Again, it's very inspiring insight from you, Dr. Jones. Building on this AI and automation, like you just put yourself that, okay, it happened previously as well. We talk about literacy of 16th century, and from there on, whenever something new has been put in our system, in our society, there are people who are actually trying to act literate, and we just don't really feel like that this is going to, be the future. And it was ultimately, and we're building block by block. So adding just a bit more of a human dimension, I think my colleague has got a wonderful question for you. Sana, would you just come up with a question? That was an amazing one.
Okay, so your book, This Leadership, could you tell us more about this term? Is it like something anti-leadership? Something that goes against leadership?
So right. We're talking about your book, This Leadership, right? That's a wonderful question. I wanted to ask her, okay, she took the lead. Is that where you?
Right. That's amazing, actually. So we're all a team here today to make it the best that we can. Guess what? A lot of people actually do not think that this leadership is going to be the new leadership. It's not against the leadership. In fact, it's a paradox that's created
Oh,
for sustainable models in organization. As a matter of fact, when I sit down with a lot of organizations, when I interact with a lot of leaders across different organizations, small, medium, enterprise, all the way to the conglomerates level, right? They always have
mhm.
issues and problems, from motivating people to make them think about problem solving to critical thinking. So I come up with a concept of this leadership, right? Why? Because look at Google search or Amazon or any search engine and put leadership. You're going to have tons, tons of thousands and probably 10,000, 100,000 of books about leadership. This leadership is the only title in the world titled this way. And it's emerging slowly where everybody is going to be heading to that direction. It's a paradox. It's enriching minds of organizational leaders, thoughtful leaders, those who are aspiring to be in a corporate world, those who are in academia, those who are in HR, those who are in the organizational behavior and consultants and training. What happens here, I wrote this as a paradox, trying to identify what is a problem or problems in organizations that we're living in today, we're working in today. And I wrote scenarios about it. It's purely away from academic, but rather an easy reading to target every single generation from the 20s to the 30s to the 40s to the 50s, right? 70s. I got a lot of people really enjoying it. And when they read it, they think, is it an anti leadership? Definitely not. It's a paradox to wake up a lot of leaders. It's a paradox to wake you up and take care of your people. It's a paradox that says, as much as there is leadership, whereas always at this leadership that is a symptom, right? You gotta have to cure that symptoms in order for you actually to move forward in the direction of being profitable. Every single organization, for example, they want to have great ROI. But what is ROI for a lot of organizations? Return on investment in terms of financial, but they don't realize return on investment on human capital is the greatest assets, because how are you going to be able to make profits without handling all the problems in your organization? How are you going to be able to make profits without taking care of your people? How are you going to be able to make profits in a unique organization? What sets you unique is not you with the label and the logo and the marketing and all of this. In fact, your team, your people. And that's why leadership is based on a concept that you have to enrich the minds with a this leadership concept. And this is a wake up call for all the leaders around the world. Back to you.
Okay, so I have another question. Do you think leading remote teams is different from leading physical teams in organizations? How different it is?
We've gone through a shock that nobody was expecting, right? And it turned out that a lot of organizations are really not agile, and agility is not there in many organizations, and that's what happens, right? So the huge transformation that had happened in a lot of organizations, and this is a wake up call to everybody, right? Flexibility should be there. Physical presence of employees is required, but also flexibility, it should be always there, because a lot of people realize after the pandemic that what matters to me nowadays is not only work. There's two concepts here. I live to work, or I work to live. And a lot of people, they used to live to work, and that shifted into I work to live. So today you got to realize, what is important to you? Is it that you're working to live, or is it that you are living to work? So flexibility should be there. Managing teams, leading teams remotely is very challenging. I'm not saying it's difficult. I'm not saying it's hard, but you got to be trained. You got to train your people on how to do it, and you have to trust your team. Trust in leadership is important. And without that concept of trust, you're not going to be able to be productive. And a lot of people, they try to micromanage. That's not going to happen. That's not going to work. You gotta believe in your team. Believe and they can achieve. Believe and they can achieve. And if you don't do this to your team, you don't trust them, let them decide what days of the week they like to come. If they are married, see what's important to them and to their family. So touch them by heart, they will produce to you from heart. It's a wonderful philosophy. It's a formula in life. Back to you.
Okay, so you've raised a very good point that micromanaging is actually, I believe, destructive to team working, because people do not actually like to be watched or observed every time in the every little activity they're performing. So right now in the modern age, one of the leadership styles which is very in trend is the servant leadership. Do you think it is helpful in the modern age?
Let me tell you this here. Let me take you back to our child, right? We grew up looking at our parents being the servant leaders, and we didn't know they were servant leaders. They were there to serve us. They were there actually to give us what we want in life, what we need in life, to give us a shelter, and they started with that concept. And servant leadership is you as a leader being there to serve the people, empower them. And by empowering, you have to inject the factor of trust. The servant leader is not about himself or herself, it's about the people in your circle. You're taking care of them, you're nourishing them, you're actually serving them to the best that you can. But the question here, how many leaders are doing this servant leadership nowadays? Because we fall along the way that we think we're serving people, but in fact, we're really not serving the people. And I observe a lot of leaders. They think we're there for you guys, but actions speak louder than words. What am I going to do with words that's just words when I see the actions completely different? That's why this leadership is a wake up for a lot of people, to make them think once, twice, and thrice, to wake them up, to come out of that, ivory tower, and let them come down to their senses and take care of their employees. It's all about employees. Servant leadership, serving the people, all about the people, not about the leader.
All right, that was a great insight, to be honest with you, Dr. Jones. Seriously. Okay, now, I picked one point, and you were quite passionate about that too, emotional intelligence. You know what? Why exactly it is so important nowadays? Why it is so, then, especially after the COVID, I believe that Marco already was saying before we even started that COVID has changed what in us? Probably we don't really know about it right now, but yes, it has changed us, that's for sure. So what do you think, how emotional intelligence and how emotionally intelligent a leader needs to be? And if they're not, what kind of repercussions do we have with the current, very fast moving Industry 4.0 paradigm and the model, which is leaving very little room for any sort of mistake? You don't have enough time to actually overcome that or correct it. So how do we put it that way? How would you comment on it, Dr. Jones, please?
Sure. Emotional intelligence is very important. Emotional intelligence is a wonderful component, an essential component. It's a must as part of leadership. A lot of people do not understand what's the concept of emotional intelligence, but let me digress a little bit, right? I'm going to take you in a journey of critical thinking to link it to the path of emotional intelligence. So we started with leadership. I'm going to take you in a journey of critical thinking. So the title of our session today is about critical thinking, and I'm going to take you to emotional intelligence. Let's link all the three together in a wonderful journey. So I'm going to read a wonderful definition by one of the pioneer and the father of critical thinking, right? Richard Paul. And I love this definition, right? Critical thinking is thinking about your thinking while you're thinking in order to make your thinking better. I'm just going to repeat it one more. Critical thinking is thinking about your thinking while you're thinking in order to make your thinking better. All of us, we think today. Some of us, they think on daily basis. Some of us Some of us actually on regular basis. Some of us actually on overthinking basis, right? Some of us on less thinking basis, right? Whatever categories that everybody needs to think, right? You're thinking about life, you're thinking about study, you're thinking about family, you're thinking about kids, you're thinking about raising the kids, you're thinking about tuition of the kids. And then life is getting more challenging day after day. It's not as used to be. I'm not saying in the past didn't have their challenges. They did. But comparing it to the past, with technology coming on board, as much as technology actually, we're talking about automation, is a blessing in disguise. But the problem actually, with technology comes in, and with more technology comes in, life becomes much more harder, right? Much more challenging. So we're thinking. And the problem, and I'm saying it's a problem in a lot of organizations, a lot of employers, and I've been watching this trend since I started my journey in the dissertation of leadership, right? And my dissertation of leadership was leadership and critical thinking in higher education, right? And then I used team leadership as a focus and interacted with really the gurus of team leadership and critical thinking, right? I was awarded the Pearson Scholarship of Critical Thinking, as a matter of fact, right? Guess what happens? Since the year of 2005 all the way till now, there is this problem that's severely impacting a lot of organizations, which is people who are graduating, students that are graduating from a lot of schools, business schools, most specifically, they're not able to be critical thinkers. They're not able to solve problems. They're not able to do team leadership. They're not great communicators. They're not good communicators, as a matter of fact. They're not good negotiators. So school system is really not empowering. And there is a lot of talk about it. There is a lot of people saying, yeah, there is so and so and so and so, right? Look at the scores, the database from around the world, right? In the Western world, you might think there is no problem. No, there is a lot of problem. In the Middle East, the Far East, there is much more bigger problems because we're in charge as professor of leadership. A lot of times, right? We claim as faculty, and a lot of faculty around the world, probably some of them actually listening to us today, and they might think actually we're empowering people to be job ready, and it's become a label, it's become a term, it's become a terminology. But how are they job ready if you're not able just to get them ready for critical thinking, right? Is it only interaction with the job market, with employers in the marketplace that's going to no? Actually, by asking questions and asking the right question. And the problem is that the problem a lot of employers are facing, interns, fresh graduates, they're not able to solve problems. Faculty claim that they embed critical thinking in their syllabus and their teaching, but the problem is they fall off the wagon as they go along. And the proportion they contribute between, if I say 10%, that's really high, but I would say between 2 to 5%. And this is measured. This is based on actual data. So look at the problem around the world. Over 76%, and this is based on the recent data, over 76%, right? This is on the level of the United States, right? Fresh graduates, they're not able to be problem solvers. They're not able to be critical thinking. And they gave them the skills from analysis to critical thinking, to problem solving, to synthesis, and to evaluation, to negotiation. This is the parameters for that, right? And in fact, I've done a study where I put people actually into negotiation role play, for example, right? And I gave the placebo for some people, and I actually implemented negotiation role play. So negotiation role play has really helped significantly in raising the level of critical thinking. Now, thinking about your thinking while you're thinking, in order for you to better your thinking, how beautiful is that? Now, I want to tell you actually about a wonderful scientist, an American scientist, an American physicist, right? Isidore Rabi, out of New York, right? In 1944, he was the award winner of the Laureate Nobel Prize. Go check him out. What made a difference of this wonderful scientist to become a scientist? And he says in an interview, actually, that he conducted, and it was published by the New York Times, right, in 1996. It's an article where it used to be actually paper-based, right? Now it's in the archive. They said, what made you a scientist? He said, I owe this to my mother. He said, my mother, when I was a child, it's a wonderful story. My mother, when I was a child, compared to other mothers in the neighborhood, all the other mothers, they used to ask their kids, what did you learn today in school? He said, my mother didn't ask me this question. My mother asked me, what kind of good question did you ask today?
Oh, wow.
You see, that little difference in the type of the question that the mother has asked a child has impacted Ajit Rabi, the American physicist, the American Nobel Prize laureate winner, and then the American scientist, right, to be a scientist. And he said, if it wasn't for my mother, I would not become a scientist today, right? And what a wonderful story how our becoming a lot of people want their kids to be doctors and engineers and all, and nowadays it's changing, but it's not about nowadays. It should be. It's all about the kid. It's all about what they want, and you got to ask the right questions. And the problem is there are characteristics of critical thinkers.
Okay,
Let me
well,
tell you
that's
about them. Right.
Dr. James, I have a question from one of our
Sure.
viewer, from Mr. Mohammed Yasin. And that's a very
Yes.
interesting question for sure. I'm showing it on screen as well for everybody to view. Mr. Mohammed Yasin has asked a question: how can we apply leadership at grassroots level? Now, this is something everybody wants an answer to. How should I begin? That's basically what he's trying to ask. How anybody who wants to be a sort of an impactful, effective leader, how should they begin? Especially the people who have spent like 3 to 5 years in the organizations already with professional experience, and now they want to act as a leader, or they are actually promoted as a leader. So how should I begin? That's the basic question. A wonderful question from Mr. Mohammed Yasin. Dr. James, over to you.
This is a very wonderful question, and I thank Mohammed for this actually. It's always, you have to go back to the roots, the organizational culture. The organizational culture is a foundation for everything. And a lot of people desire and wish to implement a certain thing. Everybody desire to be a great leader. Everybody desire to be wanting to be a leader. Everybody desire to get out of the shell of management and become a leader. And a lot of managers, they claim to be leaders. But the problem is everything starts with the organization culture, right? You can feel it. In some organization, you walk in right through the door and you feel it's a happy culture. And in some organization that you walk in is like, oh my God, everybody is miserable. What is happening here, right? So two concepts here. Do you want to treat the disease or do you want to treat the symptom, right? A lot of people actually treat the symptoms, but they do not treat the disease. And the disease is the organizational culture. It starts from the bottom. If you don't have a strong foundation, it's not from the top. Strategy in the past, for example, and leadership starts on a great man theory, which is the leader himself, leader herself. I tell you, you do, right? Top down. Now is bottom up. Is actually, in fact, great strategies in the world, great leadership concept in the world, great team leadership in the world is built up from ground up. So there is totally a great difference between top-down strategy to bottom-up strategy, and that's how you start. You got to look at, evaluate the team. 360 is there, but it's not comprehensive. Observation is a great thing. You're talking about automation and human being who's an expert in the field, they can identify who's causing the problem, who is the reason behind it, and always hire an outside consultant, an outside trainer, a trainer from inside the organization. They're not going to do you a favor unless somebody who's in charge of, as a director or as a manager of training and development, then his or her function and job main responsibilities is to train the people. And there is no excuse. They got to go forward, right? And then they have to be empowered by the top leader to identify, right? And to identify what's happening. What kind of problems are facing the organization? I hope I addressed that question clearly. So start from the bottom, analyze people.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Just building on your answer, Dr. Jones. And seriously, nowadays, like you've already been reflecting throughout this conversation, that how things have changed, how technology has made life a little more, demanding of ours, and it's very difficult for anybody to just get disassociated with technology for a while and take a break, even for 5 minutes. I mean, it's a big task nowadays. Just switch off your smartphone or switch off your gadgets and just go into a natural green place and spend like 30 odd minutes over there. So we are all sort of having a different sort of a pressure. How would you just comment on the fact that probably the old ideology of leadership is not any more compatible with what we have inside as far as the future is concerned? Technology has put a lot of pressure on the professionals, of course, and they feel like that their leaders should act a bit more as sort of a family head now, instead of a typical, the conventional boss idea that we used to have. So how do you think? Because we are nearing the conclusion of the session, so I just wanted to ask you this question. So how do you comment on that? How do I transition if I am already a convenient, an old mind leader? So what do I do? Expanding on Yasin's question, yeah. A brief answer would be good.
Absolutely. How much time we're left with, just to be very concise with you?
Well, let's take it for 5 minutes from now.
Sure. All right. Yeah. Well, the greatest thief in the history of our time is iPhones, phones, all the gadgets, because it steals our time. Yeah. We're addicted. We're not addicted to other substances. In fact, we're addicted to our devices. Before you go to bed, the last thing that you do, you type a message or you check your phone. In the middle of the night, when you wake up, you check your phone. Doesn't matter what kind of brand, right? First thing, when you wake up in the morning, I guarantee you, a lot of people would agree on this actually here. You see the chat. And right, yes, that's what you do. And be honest, because leaders should be honest, right? The first thing that we do, we check our phones, right? Before we do anything, before we get out of bed, before we go and wash our faces, before we do anything, any activity in our daily life, right? And guess what happens? We're addicted. We've been stalling from our time. You find families sitting in the same living room, everybody staring at their phone. You find couples going out, right? And trying to sit on a table right across from each other. Everybody is just busy staring at their phones. Not only that, kids with their parents, and they are busy with their iPads. I'm just carrying an iPad actually for educational study. I'm just mentioning that as a side note, okay? So it's a difference. You as a parent, you're responsible for that. You should really take care of your kids and limit it to a certain amount of time. If you stare at your screen, science proven, if you want to stay up all night long and you just want to have a restless sleep, stare at any device, a laptop, a desktop, any of gadgets, phone, iPads, name it, right? Tablets, because that glare will give a signal to the brain. And that brings my next point, as a matter of fact here. We're talking about emotional intelligence. One component of emotional intelligence here is self-awareness. You know what appalled me all the time? When I talk to a lot of leaders and I ask them a question and I say, are you self-aware of yourself? They say, yeah, I am. And I ask, are you self-aware of your team? They say, I am. And it's like, well, give me something that you're self-aware. A lot of us, we are really not self-aware on multiple dimensions on what is happening. And that's why we got to identify and assess, because our self-awareness today is not going to be the same after 1 week, right? Another component here we're talking about is a motivation and the emotional intelligence. There are different types of people, right? Self-motivated, and then other leaders who are able to motivate people, but is motivating people by the carrot and stick. And this is what happened in our organizations. The carrot and stick, today I'm just going to utilize the stick and say, well, you know what? See the difference in this wonderful story. A wonderful manager with a wonderful company and a wonderful setup with employees. You set the KPI as a manager. 10 out of, let's say 11, right, achieving the target. And there is one person is not achieving the target. Or maybe that's another person that's coming not achieving the target. 1 month did not achieve the target, and you come into that person and say, you know what, you're not achieving the target. We got to sit down and talk. All right, And then the second time, they're not achieving the target, your job is at risk. Third time, this is 3 months, right? This is a stick, right? I think you're going to have a warning. See, there is another wonderful manager, right? Looking at that wonderful person and saying to them, you're really a great achiever. You hit the goals in a KPI on a regular basis. I've noticed that you're not really hitting your targets and goals for this month. What is it that I can do for you to make you feel better? Second time, they don't hit the target. This is the second time you're not hitting the target. Is there anything that I can do for you? What is happening? The third time, see, and they ask, can we sit down and talk? And that's why empathy is one factor of emotional intelligence. See, the carrot and stick, it really plays a major role in organizations, but the problem here, a lot of people, they use stick. Imagine you got a piece of metal, you hammer it all the time, it's gonna break eventually. You're losing people. Retention is not a matter of attention to a lot of organizations. They say, oh, everybody is replaceable. They're not realizing getting talent.
With your permission,
Sure.
I have another very important question. A quick question,
Yes.
And a quick answer would really work for us. One of our viewers has come up with this, and I really like the question again. How do you think students can build problem-solving skills in themselves to become a successful individual when they enter the organization? So we are talking about the prerequisites for a fresh graduate who's just graduated from a very competitive institution, of course, say like TMUC, and they're about to enter into a professional life. What are the key elements? 3 key advices. What do you believe to a fresh graduate you will give is about entering into professional life? Over to you, Dr. Jones.
Let me answer this here. There's no magic pill to answer this question, or to critical thinking, to problem solving, or to negotiation skills, or to leadership. See, if I have the choice today to look at a certain institution or a group of institutions, right? I would look at every single faculty and I would sit down with them and say, before I actually go to students, I would go to faculty and say, what are you doing in a classroom? Is it PowerPoint slides and you talking to students? Or is it you come in free-handed and ask the questions? Perfect. So the problem is not students. The problem is faculty. The problem is, as a matter of fact, is the professors, and professors claim to be really teaching critical thinking. Before you jump in exactly what am I going to do, 3 main characteristics and elements that you have to teach your student: leadership, critical thinking, and emotional intelligence. If you're not able, in any subject, if you're not able to integrate those 3 components in your teaching, because it's behavioral, you're teaching people behavioral, they're good in a role. You're teaching them tech. As a matter of fact, emotional intelligence is EQ, emotional quotient, right? And then you've got IQ. It's been proven by science. You're going to like this one. This is a very important actually to that question. EQ is twice as more important, scientifically evident base, more than IQ and technical skills combined together. I hope you like this last comment, actually, because this is science.
Seriously, it's so insightful. Seriously, I'm opening another avenue for us to think over. Dr. Jones, I wish we could have continued. I've got a lot of questions for you, but later we can have a one-to-one session and we can invite you again to come over, because this question itself, I think, needs another session, and we'll be planning with you again. So to our viewers, I think such a brief, compact, and to the point insight that we got from Dr. Alex Jones. We are very thankful to you, Dr. Jones, for spending a lot of time. Our whole TMUC fraternity, our faculty and students are watching as we speak. And I think this video is going to be watched over and over. I'm going to watch it at least twice to learn, to take the key points that I missed, maybe, because you know what, me and Sana, my colleague, we were doing another job as well, moderating as well. And it's absolutely an honor to moderate, Dr. Jones. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, viewers, for your patience and for, just hold on, and the questions, wonderful questions that we got from 2 of the users, and we'll keep on coming with these sort of episodes again with these sort of erudite individuals. So I'll be signing off along with my colleague, Ms. Sana, and thank you once again, Dr. Alex Jones. Thanks a lot. So we're signing off for today.
Thank you, guys. Connect with me on LinkedIn. And remember, you are awesome. Say it to yourself. And you are awesome, Hannah. And you are awesome, Sana. Thank you so very
Thank
much.
you very
And
much, Dr.
connect with
Chand.
me on LinkedIn. And I would be very happy to connect with all of you. Have a wonderful day. You
Of
guys
course,
done a
sir.
great
We
job.
just
And
can't
thank
get
you
it
to all
done.
the spectators. Take care, guys.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chand. So we'll be signing off for today and wait for our next session very soon.